Hey. Welcome back to the TFL podcast. You're here with myself, Rowan.
Yes.
And our good friend, Arch. How are you, mate?
I'm doing well. How are you? It's good to be here. I mean, we're not in person, but, you know, I can still see you.
That's important. And there's a special reason why we are not together tonight. We are recording a bit later than we usually would, and that's because we have a very special guest coming on the show this evening, and that is Chris Robin from Team Rise or Fall.
Yes.
At Detroit Beastie. Give him a follow on Twitter. He's a great guy to follow. He's going to be talking to us about some DFS 101, specifically around GPPs.
Yep.
So really looking forward to having him on the show a little bit later. We'll get through some news and stuff like that. First, though, guys, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter. We have a Patreon at the TFL Podcast and a website, thetflpodcast.com. Rowan's Ramblings will be out probably a day or two later, thanks to recording on a different night than usual, but that's okay. 5-star reviews are also much appreciated.
I already got
Podcasts.
a couple. Two in the running for new stubby holders, Rowan, and projections.
Yes. That's it. Yeah, talk us through the competition there, Arch.
Well, all you need to do is go on to Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star review, and we'll put you in the running for brand new TFL podcast stubby holders. You can even, this isn't a live stream. It's just you can see my video, but they're in my background here.
That's right.
Too many to give away. So high likelihood if you enter, we're going to give a few away. So give us a 5-star review, go in the running, and not only that, we'll give you a copy of our projections as well heading into your drafts.
Sounds good. You don't want to miss out on a TFL podcast stubby holder. That is for sure.
Too good.
A koozie for those in the States.
Yeah, stupid.
Anything interesting been happening with you, Arch? Been enjoying pre-season?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think we're a few things are starting to come into focus now, isn't it? Now, like after second week sort of was a bit more of that dress rehearsal that the old preseason week 3 has been. So we're getting to see a little bit more of the first team. Probably they go on ice now for the third game, you'd think. Now, don't you think, Rowan?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're not going to see too many starters. I think, especially after we saw the New Orleans-Jacksonville game, and we kind of saw there that Jameis Winston looked real good.
9 from 10 passes.
I know, for a couple of touchdowns to Marquez Callaway, mind
How's
you.
this, Rowan? I was listening to watching Good Morning Football on the NFL Network. And that 50-odd yard pass to Callaway, get this.
Yeah. In
regular season and preseasons is the longest completed pass in New Orleans for 5 years.
I saw that. Yeah.
How crazy is that?
Man, Drew Brees was just chucking him so short. So, yeah, look, Jameis Winston's going to open up the offense a lot, I think. So
obviously, when the pressure's on, that's when we're going to see a little bit more of the true Jameis. But who knows? Maybe change of scenery, different coaching. Maybe he's addressed a few issues.
That's right. Don't forget he had that LASIK eye surgery as well. So,
he's a starter now, isn't he? I've changed my projections from Hill to Winston. He's my starter.
I think a lot of people are changing their projections with Jameis now to be the starter as well. So Taysom Hill will still get his work for sure, just like he did. But if Jameis Winston can put up numbers and get this ball moving and find the end zone, then you're not going to really bench him at all. I think he's looking forward to a new lease of life, I think, old Jameis. So
unfortunately, he's got a band of no-name receivers.
Except for Kamara, and that's about it. If you call him a receiver.
Yeah.
So, look, that's it. But, hey, sleeper value, we're all about that here at the TFL podcast. So, look out for those Marquez Callaway shares of yours. That's it. Anyway, though, let's get into some other news.
News and notes.
All right, we're just on old NBCSportsEdge.com, and we're going to jump through some of the old headlines down the track here. Noah Fant's dealing with a bit of a leg issue, apparently. He missed a portion of practice and got a sleeve in the ladders on the left leg there. Fangio doesn't believe it to be serious. Noah Fant, he's in line to be a decent target hog on the old Broncos. You read much into this one, Arch, or are you just going to let it fly?
No, I'm not too worried at this stage. I'll just keep an eye on things.
Yeah. for sure. As we said, James Winston, he looks to be the leader in the clubhouse. It's exciting. Daryl Henderson, though, we saw him. He had a bit of an issue with his thumb, but he took part in some 11-on-11 drills in a non-contact jersey. So
bring on the funk. Bring on the funk.
I think fantasy football podcast everyone would love the funk to be a part of this.
And this Maryland fan absolutely does want a bit of funk action.
Yeah, that's right. But Daryl Henderson, I don't think you can write him off yet. I think he's still going to be a solid RB2 for people this year. Lynn Bowden's gone on to the IR, and no one cares about that, but people do care about Travis Etienne.
Yes.
Ending up on the IR with a Liz Frank injury. His season has ended. Done. He's not going to play this year. That's huge. First round rookie draft pick for many dynasty players. What are you looking to do if you're an Etienne manager?
I mean, it just depends on what your team makeup is. Like if you were a contender, I guess you try to move him for someone who's not contending, maybe thinking that they can handle having him off on IR for a year and then get him next year. Yeah, it's just, I just feel bad for the bloke just before he can even get started. Bad enough he got drafted the Jacksonville Jaguars, but now he's going to have to deal with this. So yeah, no, I feel a bit bad. James Robinson again.
Oh, look. People are finding him as values they were anyway, like the 10th round somewhere. So you've got the James Robinson.
I think I was in the 7th round of the Fantasy Football Down Under Bowl, and it was my pick when Etienne got put on IR. So
James Robinson straight away.
So I thought I might as well add it. It was a pretty nice value in the 7th round. But
it's pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah, I think a lot of Robinson believers and truthers, I think just getting a bit out of jail free card here.
Look, I don't know. I think there's still talk around him commanding goal line work, and I think there was still value at James Robinson in the 7th to 10th rounds in fantasy drafts. So I don't mind it. I don't think people are getting too lucky per se, but they're definitely. I think it's getting better than it is. He's like he's got potential to be an RB1 like he was last year if the usage is there.
Yeah.
Adam Troutman's avoided serious injury. We saw him go down. He got carted off, but he is all good. So
sleeper alert.
At that,
breaking news
alert. Hello,
Patriots are trading Sony Michel to the Rams for 2 draft picks. Oh, no.
That's big. Let's talk about this. Stuff the injury news. Yeah. So you got Sony Michel going to the Rams. Okay, Sony Michel going to the Rams. Hot takes from the TFL boys here. I think he slots in, and Jake Funk and Xavier Jones are done.
Oh, yeah, they're done.
Any worth of them. You've got insurance for Daryl Henderson if he doesn't get up.
I think it's still the Henderson show, right? He will still be ahead.
I agree. Yes.
Michelle, let's not think Michelle's that explosive. He hasn't looked that great still. So, but it's depth, isn't it? So
it is depth.
And it's just further confidence for Ramondre Stevenson out of New England, isn't it?
I love that. I love that so much. So yeah, snagged Ramondre in my rookie draft for our main dynasty league, and very happy now. That's for sure. You got Ramondre playing the backup to Damian Harris and James White. We don't know what he's really going to do this year. He's getting on, and Cam Newton's not really going to throw the ball down to him too much like he didn't last year. But this is faith in the Patriots to say Damian Harris, sure, the number one. But they love a committee.
Yes, they do.
Ramondre is going to see time.
He'll see some time.
And hasn't he earned it?
Yeah. No,
he's earned it big time in the preseason.
He's probably been the number one rookie running back in preseason. Maybe Najee shown a bit more as well, but obviously he's just a better back. But Ramondre out of nowhere is just obviously given the opportunity. A lot of, the top line running backs aren't getting the time. They're trying to not let them get hurt. But he has earned playing time, and James White will be catching all the passes. Sprinkle a bit of Ramondre with Damian Harris, and they've got themselves a nice tidy little committee.
I think you're going to see Stevenson really steal a few goal line carries here from Harris.
I really hope Cam Newton's not the quarterback then. Otherwise Harris isn't getting nothing.
No, it's true. I think one of the telling things for me was watching their week 2 preseason game. They were at the goal line. Michelle was there, and they tried Michelle from the 3-yard line. Couldn't get anything, and Ramondre comes in the next snap and bang, touchdown for Ramondre. I think they were trying some things out there. Maybe they saw what they wanted to see. So if you're a Ramondre Stevenson owner, then well done. Lucky you.
Yeah. The buy now window, if it wasn't shut already, it is well and truly shut now. You cannot get him, really. Price has gone up.
That's it. So he's just an injury away to a very, very relevant role and very fantasy relevant role. So that's big news for the old Ramondre Stevenson. All right, Chris, I don't know if there's really anything else that we need to talk about news-wise. So let's call it there. Unless there was any other injuries that you remember. There's a few people who are avoiding practicing at the moment. But
no, I mean, Julio's always dealing with something, isn't he?
Yeah, that's so true.
They're all working it through.
Elijah Moore's expected to play in the preseason finale against the Eagles. Yep. So
Swift's probably the other one to be worried about.
That's true.
Not sure that he's going to be ready for week 1.
Yeah, Dan Campbell came out, wasn't very convincing. If anything, he put a lot of doubt, a lot of shade on Swift's availability for week 1. So just you got to keep an eye on that. That's for sure. But anyway, so there you go, guys. There's some news, some breaking news on the TFL podcast.
How's that?
As we were recording, that's always a bit of fun. Anyway, did you know the NFL is close? The footy is heating up.
Oh, it's finals time.
So is the action. Oh, yeah. Finals at AFL. That's right. Aussie rules. It's heating up. So is the action at DraftKings. So if you want to get in on the action, draft your team, stay within the cap, watch your favorite players, rack up points, draft the right squad, and you can take home millions of prizes thanks to our partnership with DraftKings. Get ready for the upcoming football season by having a crack at some Aussie League contests. If you're new to DFS, no worries. It's super easy. Here's how it works. 1, create your new DraftKings account at dkng.co/TFL. That helps out the pod. And make your first time deposit. Then join a contest in a lobby and pick your players. Make sure you stay within the $50,000 salary cap. Then sit back and watch your players try to climb the leaderboard for your shot at massive prizes. So what are you waiting for? Think you have what it takes to beat us? Well, get in on the action and test your sports knowledge. CTA enter now. Global contest entry fees and prizes are in US dollars, not available to residents of SA. Terms and conditions apply. 18 plus. Gamble responsibly. Think about your choices. Call Gambling Help at 1-800-858-858 or www.gamblinghelponline.org.au. Eligibility restrictions apply. See au.draftkings.com for details.
Lovely. Look, we love each and every one of you for taking the time to listen to us. Your support means the world to us. One way that you can keep our pod going and support us is on Patreon, with our base supporter tier starting at $2 Australian a month. Just Australian, not even US. You can help support our Aussie-based fantasy and DFS pod. Benefits of joining our Patreon include gaining access to our detailed 2021 player projections, as well as getting exclusive access to our cash game lineup each week for less than the cost of a cup of coffee. Come join us at patreon.com/the TFL podcast.
Fantastic. Well, guys, we have a very special guest. His name is Chris Robin. We are going to be jumping into an interview with him in just about now. All right, everyone. We are live with Chris Robin, or at Detroit Beastie, as you know him on Twitter. And we are very, very lucky to have you, Chris. You're working for at Team Rise or Fall at the moment as well, so a bit of a plug there.
Correct.
Chris, welcome to the TFL podcast.
Thank you. And it's embarrassing to say this as a grown man. It's almost 9 a.m. here in Detroit, but I have sleepy face because I just literally rolled out of bed about 15 or 20 minutes ago. So again, I know embarrassing as an adult man, but I have that luxury. My work schedule and my writing schedule allow me to sleep in every once in a while. So here we are. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Well, we're just glad. We're glad you woke up, and we're glad that you're here with us, and I'm glad you're making the time difference work for us crazy people here in Australia in the future. Yeah.
I'm glad I woke up too. What's the other alternative?
Yeah, that's right. Chris, we've got you on to talk a bit of DFS 101. We are jumping into looking into DFS a bit more as a podcast. It's a fun, great way to play fantasy football. What's your favorite thing about DFS in general? What do you just love about it?
Well, there's two things, and I won't spend a ton of time on each one. It's the way it challenges me every day, right? That's the beauty to DFS. That's why I kind of, fell in love with FanDuel or DraftKings and those other formats like 9 or 10 years ago, because once you do something, you're constantly doing something, you look for like a challenge, right? And we've been playing fantasy football and redraft or dynasty IDP for so long, where, to be fair, it was like, well, I've done this. I've seen this a million times. I want to challenge myself. And bam, lo and behold, I heard the advertisement for FanDuel driving home on the freeway like 9 or 10 years ago. So it's the challenge to me on a daily basis, the strategic side of things, all the salaries. But the second most might be 1A, and this is 1B, is connecting with other people. Like, here we are, right, on a Wednesday morning. I'm in Detroit, you're in Australia. It's insane. So connecting with folks, people really love to kind of look up and see where can I get better? What can I do? Who can I reach out to? And that's where I like to be, kind of like the guiding light or a blinking neon sign that says me, because that's what I enjoy to do, help people and help others. I've done, a lot of DFS stuff years ago, right? Years before. And I know people are just now starting to get into it this season. Same thing last year. So if I can kind of help and guide other folks with my experience, then I'd be silly not to share my notes or not to share my advice, because we all know there's a lot of sneaky people that do like backhanded stuff, and I'm very good at this, but they don't share anything because it's like all a secret to them. And again, I'm not telling somebody how to live their life or play DFS, but to me, I'm an open book. I love to share anything and everything I can to help folks get over the hump, to help folks enjoy this just as much as I am.
That's awesome. I agree. I think Arch and I just jumping into this world, and it's been great to kind of see people like yourself and others who are keen to share their insights and do it together, because I think that's one thing with DFS is that it's not like a 12-team league where everyone's out to get each other. Yeah. So actually a whole bunch of people can win, a whole bunch of people can succeed in this.
Us against the world.
Let's do it again. That's right.
It's like you go to the casino and you're playing blackjack or you're playing roulette, right? It's not my money. It's not your money. So why people get that feeling where if I tell one person my secret, then all my DFS success is going to go away. Look, there's plenty of money to go around on these DFS websites. I'm not the bad guy.
That's right.
Yeah, 100%. So we are going to look at the two contests that people kind of talk about. One is GPPs and one's cash. We're going to focus a bit more on GPPs with you, Chris. And so tell us, what is a GPP contest for those uneducated out there?
GPP is a larger tournament, a massive tournament. And they come in all shapes and forms. I know there's single entry GPPs. That means we're all on the same playing field. I get one line, you get one line, Arch, you get one line, and we'll see who has the better line. Yep. And then there's multi-entry GPPs. In most cases, it's 150 entries in the same contest. And in that case, I mostly nowadays I stay out of those contests because as the months have turned into years and we're it's August 25th, right? People have a bankroll behind them. They have an unlimited amount of resources. And I'll tell you this, if you go into the ocean or you go into the lake and you drop, 150, lures and lines, you're going to catch more fish than me if I only have 2 poles or 2 rods, in the lake or in the ocean there. So it's just a process of elimination. It's ratio of numbers here. So when it comes to GPP, like that is I look at a FanDuel GPP kind of like, and this is going to be strange to you being from Australia, but I look at that as the American dream. Everybody says, look, this is FanDuel. $1 can net me $100K if I get first in this contest. It's a pipe dream. It rarely happens, but I think that's the buzz and that's the excitement that keeps people coming back. Casual fan or even like a seasoned vet like myself. So to me, GPPs are the sole reason why FanDuel and DraftKings was created. It gets people people excited and oh my God, I can win this amount of money. And then when you transition to cash, that's just boring. But if you play it right and you have a process and a method, you can really clean up on a nightly basis. Cash games, you can chip away, right? You're not going to win, $5 grand, 10 grand in one lump sum. You can dink and dunk, as I say. And that's my preferred method of playing as it stands right now. I love getting into it, and I play in those, they're like 3 and 5 person contests. So it's easy peasy. It's me. All I have to do is beat 2 other people, or all I have to do is beat like 4 other people. So those 3 to 5 man contests, but I play in over 200 of them in a night. I mean, so that's the difference here. I'm able to just enter all day. And then to be fair with you, I use the same line across the board in all my entries. And I could get into that if you'd like it. It probably not boring, but I can set my watch by, my hit rate in terms of doubling my entry fees in there. So difference between cash and GPPs is one is creates this facade where, oh my God, I can win $1 million. I know DraftKings has that Millie Maker. Better off playing a lotto ticket. Better off, you probably more probable to get struck by lightning than you are to win a big GPP. But again, hey, who am I to tell someone how to play DFS? That's the one thing I think is very important. You can download an optimizer. You can pay for an optimizer, or you can buy lines, or you can really work at it. But it's up to each individual DFS player to find out what best method is for them.
Yeah, for sure.
No, that's great advice. I think, Chris, I think we have to all really consider, and like whether we are starting out really small or whether we built something up over a long time, the way we're going to approach the contest, I think the more insight that we have into it and the more understanding and knowledge is really, really important. Arch, what have you been thinking about?
Well, and I guess you kind of answered this in a way, but I guess the lure of the GPP is the big payouts, isn't it? And so the Millie Maker is the big ticket in there, but there's so many other contests. Really, that's just something that, it's so the odds of winning those is so low. That's just you would avoid those big field tournaments.
I do now. Yes. I mean, let's say, if we rewind back 5 or 6 years, it was a little bit easier to hit. It's still set up for, FanDuel to be, the benefactor here in terms of the money coming in and the money going out. But in today's day and age, especially right now, August 25th, almost 26 on your side of town here, people are getting smarter. People are getting better. More people are looking to play. So in turn, those big GPPs are watered down, right? But again, I could argue both sides here. They get watered down with, thousands of casual fans who enter a lineup and they don't edit it, and it's just a wasted entry. So we have that advantage. We also have the advantage of, people not knowing. They enter the contest and they edit their lines and they have no idea what's up and what's down and what's left to right, and we can get over on those folks. So then we've made it halfway through, but we're still, at 10,000th place, right? If there's 20,000 people in there, 5,000 are watered down, 5,000 have no idea what they're doing. So bam, you can bump yourself up to 10,000th place. And then that's when the real work starts. And it's just fun from start to finish. And Rowan, while you were talking, I was starting to think, what I don't even know if they're around anymore. It's called the blooming onion, where it's like a deep fried onion and you peel the petals away. And you dip it in that like horseradish sauce. When I think of DFS, especially when I'm writing or I'm talking, or like right now when someone asks me a question, each question is like a peel. Like I could, one question is I'm peeling, and then because of that, there's 10 more questions. So it's the strategic side of DFS just really gets me going, boys.
Oh. Yeah, I can't wait I've been just aching for just to get thinking on just the theory behind how we can actually maximize our returns through GPPs, particularly at the moment. So if you're always looking, if you're entering a GPP, are you max entering or avoiding it if you can't max enter?
Great question. And I have maxed out a contest before a lot of times. It started off as just to say, just to say I did, right? Because if this is what I wanted to do for a living, or if I'm taking this, advice and writing, broadcasting, DFS stuff serious, I want to cover all my bases. I want to feel experienced in all aspects of that. Because imagine going to the doctor, for a sore throat, and he can only get you so far. Well, I'm a doctor, but I haven't studied that. So in terms, I'm not comparing myself to a doctor, but I want to take in everything it has to offer here. So a GPP to me is, in maxing out a GPP, is fun to do every once in a while. I still do maybe once a month, twice a month, but it's, the bigger one, the easiest one to do is it's $1, right? 100, the big GPP every day for baseball, hockey, football, basketball. So it's $150 to max enter, and you're going to spend more time kind of, editing and entering than anything else. But I do enjoy it from time to time, based on the slate. I'm a huge, I love smaller slates, like 2 games, like an after hours baseball slate or an after hours hockey slate, or even like football, they have the Sunday night. So you get the Sunday night football game and the Monday night football game, 2 games, but the contests are still the same. The payouts are still the same. And you're greatly diminishing your risk, if that makes sense. So like on a main slate, you got 16 games, 17 games, and it's 100,000 people in there. That is next to impossible to make any headway there. So I probably wouldn't waste my time max entering those. And if anybody ever wants to max out a contest just to say they did, just to see what it's like, you can always max enter like a nickel contest. I've done that before. It's like, it'll cost you like $12.50, $13.50 to max enter one of those contests, just to say you did get the experience, what it's like to edit 150 lines, what it's like to kind of, all that stuff. So it's kind of invaluable. And for $12.50, I mean, come on. And I believe about a month or 2 ago, I wanted to max enter a baseball tournament without using any money, just using those free tickets, right? Yeah. And actually, I had to spend like 10 cents or 12 cents, but you win an entry. And I fell short. I won 114 free tickets, and the max was 150. So fell short, but it's just fun to kind of reach for new stuff,
That's fantastic. I think part of it is about experimenting, and that's, I think, part of the fun, but also being wise in that. And I think that's why it's great to hear your insights, because, hey, we're dealing with money. It's an important thing to take care of, and you don't want to overspend or go too hard at all. So I think hearing this is really, really important. What do you think about those single entry, 3 max type competitions that allow you to kind of be on that level playing field with everyone straight away? Are they exploitable? Are they good things to kind of push into?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like a single entry GPP is still one of my favorite contests to enter, because, as I said, everybody's on the same playing field. The #1 ranked DFS player in the world, I believe, is Alex Baker, aka @Awesemo. And I try and pick his brain from time to time. And when you look around the landscape on a daily basis, he's in literally every contest under the sun here. So a single entry GPP to me is, how can I be as wild and different as possible, right? Like, let's say, tomorrow, or let's say today there's a full slate of football games, and I'm in these single entry GPPs. I'm going to put the most off the wall yet educated team together I can, because then you get into the point of, it's called chalk. I'm going to fade the chalk. What is chalk? Chalk is just those, Kansas City is always chalk, right? Buffalo is always chalk. Those are the high floor, uncapped ceiling kind of guys that everybody on earth is going to have, because they produce, but you're not going to get any headway if we all have the same players. So that was where, bottom of the barrel was born. But to me, single entry is still exciting, and I try and get as off the wall contrarian as I can. I did it last night with baseball, right? The Dodgers are studs and Boston are studs. I'm going to stack the Pittsburgh Pirates and see what it gets me, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's, it's, if you can afford it, then I think that's really, really
Can I ever eat the chalk, or I have to always fade chalk?
Great question.
Yeah, absolutely. You can eat the chalk all the time on a daily basis if you want, but that's in football, people talk, hopefully I'm not burying, the lead or your questions here, but in terms of chalk and fading chalk or eating chalk, it's always nice to kind of see that in front of you based on the slate and realize, well, you know what, if the three of us are in the same contest together, just a 3-man contest, us three, I want to eat chalk. I want to have chalk because then those players become free squares. And then once the contest locks, you can look at ownership percentages, and I see me, Rowan, and Arch all have the same quarterback. We have the same running back. We have the same wide receiver. So those are free squares. So meaning it's cut the contest literally in half for me. And those 2 or 3 guys that I rostered that you don't, that's where I'll have the edge. And that's where, the homework side of things and the crunching numbers and the strategic value of some of these players come from. So eating chalk is a great move, but it's all in the eye of the beholder. It's all how you build your lineup, what slate, who's the chalk, and you go from there.
So where do you get that sense of who is everyone playing this week? Who is the chalk?
Well, it's first of all, as corny as this sounds, playing DFS for so long, and the moment I wake up, I'll go on social media and I'll check some stuff, and I have some group text messages with the guy friends I grew up with, and you can feel it right here, right in your chest, right? This guy is going to be chalk today, and then if you want some further dig into that, you can go. A lot of these websites that offer optimizers also deal with ownership percentage, and I think ownership percentage in DFS is something I find highly important, yet not a lot of websites are talking about it. I'm not trying to shamelessly plug, Team Rise or Fall, but they have their own tools dedicated to ownership percentage. And you'll see, the owner CEO, his name is Mitch. He'll highlight that stuff. He'll screenshot, he'll circle it, and he puts it out to everybody, paid customers or freebies, whatever. So to me, ownership percentage is massive, and people just kind of glance over that kind of stuff.
Do you have in your mind a set cutoff of roster where you think, oh, that's too much, I'll fade him this week?
Yeah, based on, and again, that is could talk about it right here, but it's all relative. It's all on a week to week, day to day, game basis, right? Let's say for football, let's say the Kansas City Chiefs are hosting the Detroit Lions. Well, I think Patrick Mahomes and Clyde Edwards and Tyreek Hill and Kelsey are going to be like 75% owned because they're Kansas City. Not only are they Kansas City, but they're in Arrowhead and they're hosting my hapless Lions. So everybody on earth is going to flock towards them. But let's say, Kansas City is playing the Washington football team. Washington football team's defensive line is unbelievably talented. Their defense in general is getting good. So while Kansas City still might be chalk, I might pull back the reins and have very low ownership just in case. So you can fade chalk, and if it pans out, you're at another extremely high advantage where we know Mahomes and Tyreek Hill and Kelsey are 45% owned, and they put up goose eggs. If I didn't roster them, well, there's my advantage, and I'm able to zoom past the Kansas City Chiefs folks who played them.
That's really good. When you look at building, you're talking about hand building or optimizing. What do you prefer doing? Are you a hand builder first and then optimizer second, or do you head straight for the optimizers? That there's a lot of sites out there who you can pay for optimizers and stuff like that.
Let me show you this. I mean, it's no secret. This is my Bible, right? See all the tabs, and I hand build every day.
Yeah,
every day I hand build. So there's like 300 pages in here, and there's little to no blank space left. I write tiny to fill it in. So I've always been a hand builder, and I even take it a step further where I write down the results, the next day, right? So that's something I have to do when we're done here, finish my coffee and write down and see what I did. So there's clear advantages for both sides, I'd like to think, or excuse me, let me take that back. I don't think there is an advantage one way or another. We know it's 2021. Soon to be 2022. Everybody does things with their smartphones, with their tablets. So there's little to no pen and paper action going on. So that's just what I enjoy. And again, Is there advantage to hand building and using an optimizer and building it that way? I don't know, but personally, I love the idea of having a pen in my hand and writing everything down. So it's just another layer of the blooming onion that I enjoy doing. That's what this whole thing should be about anyways. You shouldn't wake up in the morning and say, you know what, I'm bummed out. I got to play DF. Like if that ever happens, then I'll walk away. But I still enjoy writing everything down and hand building. There's the satisfaction that I get from seeing it go from my brain to my hand to my pen to the paper, and then when it cashes at the end of the night.
For sure. If we go back to the optimizers, though, part of me, and I guess why I've always been a hand builder, I don't trust the machines, and I just worry that if I put too much faith in a machine that I don't understand, there's bound to be some mistakes I'm making. What are some traps that people could have if they just run into optimizers blindly?
Yeah. Well, first of all, my first thought, Arch, was, have you seen that Tesla is building, smart robots? Yes. Have you seen that?
With and then Will face Smith on the screen, isn't it?
Yeah. And then Will Smith the other day on Instagram posted a photo of the Tesla robot and then a photo of him from that iRobot where he's like this. So imagine that. I could get my own DFS robot. I can turn it on to do whatever I want here. But when it comes to optimizers, I think the biggest trap is people just they have no they don't have time, right? They just they put their credit card in, they get access to an optimizer, they hit enter and optimize a lineup, and then they use it from start to finish exactly how it is. Well, how many other folks have access to that same optimizer, and how many folks are just using the same lineup? So depending on the contest, the only issue there would be that we're all tied in some form or fashion, and then if you're tied at the top or you're tied for 10th, the prizes get cut in half, and then they get sliced up even more and more and more. So to me, an optimizer is fantastic to, like, right now in the morning, to just hit opto and see what it gives you. And then does that link up with my planned ideas or my planned stacks for the day? And then if you're kind of in a rut or you're on a losing streak, well, I want to stack, let's say, the Pittsburgh Steelers this week, right? But then after that, I'm at a complete blank. So you put in the Pittsburgh Steelers and then you optimize, and the computer can kind of, mix and match around your original idea of the Pittsburgh Steelers and go from there. But I would say also with an optimizer, everybody has access to it, as I've said. And then second, a lot of, optimizers are using the same old stats, right? They're using the same exact thing. Whereas in, when you're hand building and you're looking everything up from a fresh perspective, all jokes aside and all nonsense aside, you tend to see things that an optimizer can't pick up. I mean, I think we're on the verge of completely being replaced one day by artificial intelligence, right? Because they have everything. They can do anything you want, right? But in terms of a human being, there's still things that you can't get over from a computer with a human being. The eye test, like I have a feeling about this, or I saw that, last month, and it's stored in my memory. So to me, using an optimizer has its advantages, but it also has its disadvantages, being as it doesn't have that human emotion factor built in.
Yep. Yeah, and I've been listening to a fair bit of the Joe Holker show as well, and I think part of that, he often talks about the trap of using median projections and just thinking just blindly that's what they'll get, rather than looking at range of outcomes, which the optimizers don't factor that in. And so we want that high ceiling, not that small range of outcomes around that median projection.
Exactly. There's a few factors that it doesn't take in, and range of outcomes is one of them. It's just with an optimizer, one thing I do envy about an optimizer is it takes out all that human emotion, right? I hit optimize and I go, oh, there's Deontay Johnson from Pittsburgh. He burned me personally last season in my seasonal stuff. Like, the optimizer doesn't care about your feelings. They're going to give you the best possible option there, but in a way that's it. That's as far as it gets you. There's no, in-depth, it's not specifying why or range of outcomes, as you said.
Yeah, that's really good. I think when we're using an optimizer as well, you're looking at the players that you like and you're fading. How do you go about Like, do you have a player pool that you're like, I'm going to choose these particular guys? So these guys I'm definitely not choosing this week. And how do you kind of come up with that sense of who's going to be part of your lineups for the weekend?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you here. It's really simple. I just pick on bad teams, right? And then what I do is, and tell me if I'm crazy, I've been doing this for years. In like big GPPs or even cash games, I pick on the bad teams. And then so there's one player pool, right? As we mentioned, like Kansas City, Buffalo, they're in my player pool, right? And then I make a separate one of those bad teams. So let's say Buffalo is playing the Lions. And so I'm going to stack Buffalo in one lineup, but then again, I'm going to stack Detroit in another one just in case. That's me trying to be contrarian or to try to be different here. Same thing with Kansas City. Let's say Kansas City's playing Vegas. I know nobody's really on Vegas. So then I will make a team. I will stack a team of the Lions and Steelers. So it goes both ways with me. Stack the chalk and the good teams, but then I'll also stack the bad teams as well, hoping that if one of them hits, I'm in the money, right? If Kansas City and Buffalo kind of blank one day and the teams that they're playing do well, who on earth is going to be on their opponents? It's just like a silly thing I've learned over the years. You can never be too safe. You can never be too careful. So you just got to run with your gut.
Nice. Can you explain a bit to maybe people who are listening, haven't played much DFS? What's the purpose of a stack? What is a stack, and how important are stacks? And there's even the onslaughts people talking about. How important are those constructions in your lineup for winning, for doing well on a given slate?
Sure. Yeah. Now might not want to hear this, and it's something, depending on the sport. Arch has someone coming in his room. Hopefully it's not, Freddy Krueger or Michael Myers. That's what it sounded like, a horror movie.
Yeah,
the dog.
My dog head butted the door open.
Okay. Feed the poor dog. Come on. He's probably starving. So when it comes to along those lines here, I look at it as I completely forgot the question, Rowan. I apologize.
Stacks and onslaughts.
Stacks, yes. Stacks and onslaughts, absolutely. So it depends on the sport, right? In football, I rarely stack, right? 'Cause I know on FanDuel and even DraftKings, you can only roster 4 players from the same team. If you stack 5, it's invalid. I know it does in baseball and hockey. Yeah. But when it comes to football, I don't think stacking is all that important. But when it comes to ice hockey or baseball, stacking is a must, right? Because baseball, you get points for everything. You get on base, and then if the guy's on first, he gets a home, the guy batting behind him hits a home run, he gets a point for every base he touches and the run scored. But when it comes to football, you could stack like a quarterback and a wide receiver, or a quarterback tight end along those lines there. But I don't think stacking in football is all that important. If you look at some of the week to week basis, like the big GPP winners, it's a mix and match, mash unit of everything's a one-off, because those players, they went above and beyond their projections. As Arch said, the range of outcomes just absolutely hit. It's like a slot machine. So in basketball, I don't stack either often. Football, not often, but in hockey and baseball, I stack every day. I find it to be important.
Are there any combinations that you would want to avoid? So, like, obviously the classic stack of, quarterback with his wide receiver, but would you avoid having the running back and the quarterback on the same team, or do they sometimes correlate well?
Well, it's a great question, and it's on a week to week basis, right? Am I going to want to stack Jared Goff and DeAndre Swift? I probably not, because Goff has been shown that he doesn't really throw to the running back. And by the way, I'm making this up. I'm just, thinking ahead here. But if it comes to, like, you go to LA, Justin Herbert and Austin Eckler, we can trust Eckler to catch, 75 or 80 balls this season. And when you break it down, he's going to see he's going to see like 6 or 7 targets a game. That would be a good stack, because then you can double dip with the points. You're getting the points for Herbert. You're getting the points for Austin Eckler. But some other teams, names like Ryan Fitzpatrick in Washington and Antonio Gibson. Don't know if it would be as fruitful as, say, Patrick Mahomes and Clyde Edwards-Helaire,
Sure.
or Jameis Winston and Alvin Kamara. So to me, you kind of have to build backwards that way. Look at the running backs who are heavy. They're heavy-handed in PPR formats, meaning they're going to catch a lot of balls, and then you backtrack to who's the quarterback instead of going the other way around, looking at the quarterbacks first and then stacking them with a running back. Start from the back and work your way in. Let's look at some PPR running backs. Then you kind of correlate the quarterback around them.
No, cool. That's a good way of thinking about it. What are you thinking about NFL in particular? What's something that you do look for at each position? Is it? I think obviously you're probably looking at scoring settings, whether something's PPR or half PPR, when you're looking at wide receivers, running backs. I think the flex position is also always really interesting to kind of look at. I feel like a bit of research I've seen is that wide receivers more often than not are a better play in your flex. Are these? Yeah, what are these? Are they things that you've kind of found to be true?
Another great question. What I found to be true is, I know that it's off the wall. You didn't ask me this, but like stacking, offensive players against the same DST that you're rostering in these lineups, because then that's no good. Like stacking batters against a pitcher here. It's just kind of, spinning your wheels there. But in terms of that, I don't mind, getting players. To be honest, that's the whole reason why I created Bottom of the Barrel, those cheaply owned guys that nobody ever talks about, because everybody's looking for, the glitz and the glamour here. What I look to the most is, snap percentages. If these guys or kids are on the field, then I'm more likely to bring them in my line. Like if it's close to me between two players, and I look at, let's say, Devin Singletary in Buffalo or J.D. McKissick in Washington, right? I have they're the same amount of money on both sites, but I have room for only one. Who am I going to choose? I'm going to dig into snap percentages. I'm going to dig in like a target share, and I'm also going to look into, since these are both running backs that like to catch the ball. McKissick was a PPR darling last year. What kind of coverage are they going to see? Are they going to be covered by, the third linebacker on the opposing defense, or are they going to be covered by the slot cornerback from the opposing defense? So it's along the lines of, in baseball, you say BVP, batter versus pitcher. In football, they haven't really designated that because every defenses are always changing. So when it's between two players like that, I look at, snap percentages, how much is their cost, and what's the target share. And nobody ever really, I rarely do I hear someone say, you know what, I'm going to stack J.D. McKissick tonight because I know Patrick McQueen in Buffalo is more than likely going to cover him. And although Patrick Queen in Baltimore is a damn fine young linebacker, he struggles in coverage. So it's always all in the eye of the beholder. And it's up to us individually to kind of, do the work and crunch these numbers. And just looking at a screen, you can see lots of graphics where the defense is laid out, in front of you, and where normally each guy goes. Are they going to bring a safety up to kind of help cover J.D. McKissick? So I'm looking at two guys potentially that could cover J.D. McKissick. Then maybe I'll fade it, but it's not always the case.
Yeah. One position that I found last year that brought me lots of joy when I hit was just tight end position, because it seemed last year it was pay up for one or two guys, or there's a whole bunch of mid-priced schmucks, and then I loved punting tight end. Is that something you like? When they hit it, man, it feels good.
You're speaking my language. If I was there with you, Arch, I'd give you a big hug and a kiss on the cheek.
Yes.
I've always punted tight ends, not only in my seasonal formats, but also DFS formats. Tight end, over the years, it has been the last position I fill every week. I mean, is it important? Not necessarily. Do you get an advantage if the tight end you rostered, goes wild? Sure, but that's kind of few and far between. It's kind of, last season it was Kelsey and Waller, and then it didn't matter. So why would I spend, $6,500 on a tight end when I can kind of boost a running back and boost a wide receiver? So punting on a tight end to me is, since day one, I love doing that. Yep. To be fair, the one position I always fill first, and I'm not kidding, is the DST. Historically, if you look look back through the years, or even you don't want to dig that deep, go back to last year and look at some of the first overall, big money contest winners. More times than not, those lineups have the highest scoring DST for the week there. So I look at DST first, and then I build around it. Tight end always last. Please punt tight end.
Yes.
I love that. I think that's a great thing for people who probably aren't sure how to go about building a lineup. I think that's a really nice strategy. What do you have a process then, or like you go DST first? Do you do then quarterback or running back or wide receiver in there, or do they kind of mix depending on the stack that you're trying to find or the games that you're working with each week?
Well, here's the thing. I know I've said this a few times, but hopefully I've explained it enough that it makes sense. It's a week to week thing. Sometimes there's a handful of juicy running backs, and then I'll want to get them in my lineup first. Some weeks they're juicy wide receiver matchups I want to get in my line first. So every week I don't go into the slate saying, you know what, I'm going to stack running backs this week. I let the schedule kind of unfold, and then I look into it. I start the next week's, notes and bottom of the barrel, like Sunday night or Monday morning. So you have like a full, 5 or 6 days to kind of take it in here. So every week it's kind of different here, but I must say that running backs, as a 37-year-old man who's been playing, fantasy football since like 1995, I was in 5th grade. I still have that old man stay off my lawn kind of approach to running backs. Like I still love stacking running backs, because if you look back, through time, standard scoring was always that was it. That's all Superflex was never a thing. PPR was never a thing. So running backs were always the core and the anchor of our fantasy team. And I've carried that over into DFS formats.
Nice. Talking to a soon to be 37-year-old man over here too. Back to defense. When you're looking at a defense, one thing I learnt last year was I started thinking, surely I just look at, the Vegas totals and I'll just go for the loss because defense is having a field day. But then what I started to notice is some of the defenses that would top score weren't coming from those games. They're building them, I guess, their score on the turnovers. Is that something how do you look for your defenses, I guess?
Yeah, I'm looking at, to be fair, matchup. Let's say, again, I know I've said Washington, but I'm just so in love with that DST this season. If you look back, right, I say stack quarterbacks and running backs and wide receivers against bad teams. So you'd think that's the same process for DST. Well, no, not necessarily. If I can get, remember that New England Patriots team like 2 years ago? They were unbelievable. They were the #1 scoring DST. And why is that? Because they created turnovers. They had sacks. You have to look at some of the more important metrics for defenses. And do I think I could parlay that week to week depending on the matchup? So I don't necessarily choose my DST based on the opposing team. I choose my DST based on what that team does itself in terms of batting down balls, sacks, quarterback pressures, interceptions, fumble recoveries. If I can get a DST that is just swarms the football and I can count on a couple sacks and a couple interceptions, then that's the team for me. And to be honest with you, interceptions, they're so volatile. That's like we all say that, projecting touchdowns for an offensive player is next to impossible. You might as well have a crystal ball or something along those lines. Same thing goes for interceptions. The #1 thing I look for my team DST on a week to week basis are sacks. How often are they pressuring the quarterback? How often are they tackling for a loss? Because one leads to another. If the first 5 plays of the game, the defensive line is kind of getting their hands up in the face of the offensive tackles and they're getting back and the couple tackles for loss, I know that there's going to be a high probability of some sacks. And to be fair, I almost think a sack scoring on FanDuel is a little bit more than an interception. So look for just ball hawking, defenses.
Yeah.
What I think I'm hearing you say is that you're taking less into account about who people are playing and who, like the defense especially, and more about what's the quality of that player, what's the quality of that DST. Is that something that you carry through all the time? And is that a trap that people can fall into, caring too much about who these people are playing?
Yeah, I would say that, picking on, awful, weak opposing defenses, that's as easy as it gets. I mean, that's DFS 101 in all sports across the board. But when it comes to football, people just see, you know, the name, they see the price. Like, it doesn't matter who Christian McCaffrey is playing. It doesn't matter, you know, what DK Metcalf is playing in Seattle, right? They see these players, they know what they can do, and then they stack them that way. I think your question, Rowan, is the reason why Bottom of the Barrel was so successful last season. Instead of, I took the name completely out of my research. I just looked at, you know, ownership percentages. I looked at snap percentages. How often are these kids on the field? And then I go from there. Then I kind of see the name, like, right. For example, Jalen Guyton, a young kid, wide receiver for the Chargers. Last season, he was in Bottom of the Barrel several times. Same thing with Gabriel Davis. Nobody even knew who these guys are. Nobody cared about them, but they were on the field a whole heck of a lot. And come to find out, Herbert, you know, kind of used Guyton as his deep threat. I believe Guyton had 2 or 3 games in a row of at least a 70-yard catch, 2 touchdowns or a 70-yard catch in 3 games there. And nobody paid any mind to it because it's not, you know, it's not a household name. It's not a name that pops up in optimizers, but these kids are on the field and they're getting high targeted upside, you know, or excuse me, they're getting high upside targets here. That's what I'm looking for. The kicker was Gabe Davis and Guyton were as cheap as it gets, and we saw the results, right? Same thing with, let's say, Christian Kirk or Andy Isabella. Last season, I put Isabella in Bottom of the Barrel, and he scored 2 touchdowns that game, and it had nothing to do with the opposing defense. It had everything to do with his price on FanDuel and how often he's on the field and what are his target, what's his target share, and what are those targets looking like really fast, like Adam Thielen. This guy, I believe he was 2nd overall last season in red zone targets, and he parlayed it into double-digit touchdowns. So it has everything to do with what's the targets looking like? Is there massive upside compared to the price?
That's good. Oh, yeah. Great stuff to think about there, Chris. It's really, really insightful. I've loved chatting to you. One, I guess, last question as we kind of wrap up a little bit, but we talked about briefly in the beginning about the different types of slates that there are. There's the big main slates, you got like 15 or so games on them, but then you've got these small slates and showdown games where it's just one single game. Can you talk to us a little bit about how do you approach those differently, and what should people be doing as they play the different types of slates?
Sure. Now, when it comes to those big main slates, like right now, baseball is in full swing, the dog days of summer, and then week 1, every week of the NFL season, the main slate is going to be, you know, 14 or 15 games. At this stage of the game, in this stage of my DFS playing career, I mostly fade main slates because right now DFS has become so popular. A lot of the main slates get watered down. And as I told you at the beginning of the broadcast, a lot of dummies, you know, they max enter and then they forget to edit. So it's so volatile and watered down. I stay away from main slates completely. I love to pick on those smaller slates, those after hours slates or those express slates where it's 2 or 3 games. I honestly think I do my best DFS work when it's only 2 game slate, right? Like an after hours and in baseball, or even, as I said, you know, in the beginning of the broadcast, like a Sunday night, Monday night kind of slate. You get 2 games, 4 teams, and it cuts the risk in half. That's all I ever try to do is kind of mitigate my risk and look at the ratio of what do I have to do. So if I'm playing an after hours slate, there's 2 games and I'm playing in a 5-man contest. So my risk factor's gone way down. I only have to beat 4 people and I have four teams to choose from. So I feel like I can have an advantage in that situation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. What about when you're constructing a lineup in a like a showdown or 2 game slate compared to a main slate? What are you kind of focusing on in those spots? Well,
let's talk, showdown, or I think it's captain mode on FanDuel, where it's just 1 game and you have to fill 5 positions, and one of them is like an MVP or co-MVP, and the MVP gets double the points here. In those contests, I do play the main slates. It's easy peasy. There's 1 game and there's 10,000 people in a contest. So I try and be as different off the wall as I can. Like the Super Bowl last year, Kansas City and Tampa Bay, right? How many lineups had Patrick Mahomes in the MVP spot, hundreds of thousands. But if Patrick Mahomes hits, well, you get kind of a free ride to the top, and then you're on your own after that. But so in a showdown mode, I look for the least expensive option if that is possible, but with the highest probability of hitting. So last year in the Super Bowl, I had Leonard Fournette in my MVP spot. He scored twice. I got over on a few folks. I won a couple $100, and that's it. But if you're building like a showdown captain mode, I would look to be as different and as odd as you can, right? Same thing with like best ball or seasonal fantasy teams. If you build it with all studs and high upside guys, you're going to be okay, but I don't think you'll ever really get over the hump. You're going to stay 500. You're going to win 8 or 10 games. And same thing with FanDuel or DraftKings. If you just want a piece of the pie, then have at it. Then you stack chalk, you put chalk in the MVP spot, and there you go. You get your slice of pie, and we all go home. But if you're looking to hit big and really make a difference in the money that's returning, you have to make an educated guess on someone that you don't think anybody is really going to be on in that MVP spot. I stay away from showdowns. I mean, I've kind of dabbled last season, but it's just not for me. I'm not into that thing because it takes away. I feel like I can have the more strategic advantage in a 2-game slate and a 3-game slate over a showdown. Because any bum, your grandma can enter a showdown and hit just because she sees the players' names and, oh my God, I love his helmet, I love his number, puts it. It's just that there's no real strategic advantage. It's all, just luck.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And I think what I'm hearing a lot along the way is play the contests that you're comfortable with. If you're not feeling that you're going to be successful in certain contests, avoid them. No one's forcing you to do things you don't want to do.
Exactly. And that's all DFS and seasonal fantasy football's always been about. Do as you please. Don't get in over your head. And when it comes to DFS, start slow. You don't have the money to blow. Don't spend it. But that's why, I could say if you're a first time DFS player, put 10 or 20 bucks in your account, but then sprinkle it everywhere. Don't kind of, stick yourself in one position, because if you're new, find out what you're into. Are you into more cash games? Are you into 50-50s or GPPs? Now, you can buy any optimizer you want. You can, research and look for any advice from a writer, but I can only do so much. There's going to be a certain point where you're going to be left on your own to kind of decide, any last minute changes, any contest entry. So you could spend all the money in the world on an optimizer, but it's still not going to tell you what contest are best for you.
Yeah,
that's good. Last question before we go, how do you manage your bankroll? Do you have I'm only spending 5% this week or like today or something like that? Like, do you have a rule that you go by?
Well, it's probably not a rule. It might sound silly, but I let the contests kind of speak to me in that way. I know it's probably corny, like, what this guy thinks he's like the Karate Kid of DFS or Wusa, or doing when he was doing this, Danielson was doing this, but I let the contest speak to me. I look at it every day. And right now we got baseball going on, as I've said a million times. And then week 1 of the NFL season, I'll probably pull back the reins a little bit. I've seen it over and over again for 5-6 seasons. The first 2 or 3 weeks of the football season, it's insane. It's just unbelievably bonkers insane. Everybody on earth wants to try DFS. And so weeks 1, 2, and 3 they're impossible to gain any advantage. They're impossible to do anything of note, because you have these fly-by nights or these first timers that build a lineup without even looking at their phone. And those are the folks who wind up hitting it big. So I let the slate speak to me. I rarely play mains, as I was saying, and I go from there. Like in football terms, I had a goal last season where it just happened out of nowhere. Like this time last year, I said, you know what? I have a healthy amount in my FanDuel, account right now. I want to make it through an entire season without making a deposit. And I did it. First time in my life, first time since ever playing DFS, I didn't have to make a deposit throughout the season. And I played as the slates kind of allowed me to. What is good and what is bad? Because again, I know a lot of people in their regular everyday life, they see shoes or they see coffee, like they spend willy-nilly, and there's no real regard for their savings account or their checking account. People do the same thing for football. I have $150 in my bank account and it's week 3. guess I got to spend it all, see what I can do. I mean, you're allowed to play as you want, but I everything I do at DFS is cool, calm, and calculated.
Great. Love that. I think that's a great mentality to have.
I just love every question we ask. We end up getting about 3 answers to questions I wish I asked.
I was going to say, I feel bad. You asked me a question and I riff on it for 10 minutes.
No. Well, what you spoke to me because I'm probably too bonkers about week 1 coming soon, and I was probably going to go in too heavy. But probably do need to pull back and just see how things land.
Arch, in all honesty, I can tell you right now, I have a notebook around here somewhere where I've logged every week of the NFL season in terms of DFS, and if memory serves me correctly, things start to clear up around week 4, week 5 in terms of being able to get back in the saddle and really take advantage of the slates. But the first 3 or 4 weeks of the NFL season for DFS purposes, it's just it's insane. It's like everybody and their mother wants to play, and then they don't win for a couple weeks and they quit. So week 4 to 5, we're back to normal. And then there's another, and then it dips and we fit right in. And then there's another, explosion after like week 15, week 16, because seasonal formats are done. We've already played, championships are won. So then everybody jumps back into the pool, week 15, 16 and 17 here. So just something to think about.
And I think what me and Rowan are on about is responsible DFS playing. We don't want people. We want people to play with what they can afford to lose. We don't want spend your family's dinner money. We want you to be responsible with what you've got. Play with what you're comfortable with, and don't get too emotional like I'm about to get.
It's okay to get emotional. That's one of the more fun parts of this. Get emotional. Just you have to kind of don't get nuts with those emotions. Don't throw your phone through your $4,000 smart TV when Derrick Henry doesn't put up 200 yards. So emotion is good. Just use it to your advantage.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks so much, Chris. It's been a great time, and I feel like everything you said has just been really, really insightful. And I think anyone who's listening to this, whether it's their first time playing DFS or whether they've been in the game for a while, I think they really have appreciated everything that you've had to say. So thanks so much for coming on and being with us this evening / this morning.
Yeah, I could talk DFS all night and day, which I have sometimes, and I could right now. It's just strange to me, like both of you are ready to go to bed, and me, I just woke up. I'm ready to start my day. So you can go to bed. I'll have another cup of coffee, and we'll meet on the flip side this time tomorrow. Yes.
So before we go, where can we find all your work?
You can find me on Twitter at Detroit Beastie. All my DFS content, bottom of the barrel. Everything is on Team Riser Fall. Go over there. Tell them Beastie sent you. That's my promo code. And it's just unbelievable tools for DFS this coming season. And again, I'm not shamelessly plugging just because I'm like contractually obligated, but I'm telling you, I made the decision to go over there because it's just high end and it fits what I want to do. Not even from a money standpoint or from an exposure standpoint. I truly believe in what they're doing and the way Mitch and everybody is doing things around there. We all know, Discord and group chats, but this Discord over at Team Riser Fall is unlike anything I've ever seen. It's just all day, 365, 24/7. People are sharing, advice and tips, and we're talking lineup construction and we're sharing, sample lines and see what we can do. So go to Team Riser Fall, tell them Beastie sent you. And again, I say this a lot, right? But my DMs are always open. If you could question, comment, concern, you just want to, a shoulder to cry on, or you need a little advice. Seriously, you can DM me. I'll give you my phone number. I mean, that's the point of doing this whole thing. If I'm not helping others, what's the point?
Yeah. Or if you want a podcast guest with a day's notice.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Legend.
To be fair, I only need, a day. That's how I book most of my gigs. That's like a day away. The special thing would be if you messaged me this morning, but realistically, boys, I need like 5 or 10 minute heads up. So if you're ever in a pinch and you need a guy, I'll be that guy.
That's awesome. Thanks heaps, Chris. And for all of those who want to get in touch with us at the TFL Podcast, make sure you hit up our Patreon at the TFL Podcast. We have a website, thetflpodcast.com. If you're interested in jumping on DraftKings, then use our code, our link at dkng.co/TFL. That would be great as well. You can find us Twitter and Facebook also as well. Win a stubby holder. Give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, and you can win one of our great. What do you call them, Chris? Koozies.
Koozies in America, I think, aren't they?
Yeah, koozie, absolutely.
Yeah,
they're foam and they.
Keep my beer cold.
That's it.
That's it. Oh, you got koozies. Great.
Yeah, that's it. So jump on board, 5-star review, and you're entered into that competition. That's it. All right, we're going to call it there. Chris, thank you once again. It's been great.
Bye-bye.